In Psalm 68, David describes God as a majestic warrior leading his people into victory. The God of salvation, as he's described in verse 20, delivered his people from the Egyptian death camp. He brought them into the promised land of Canaan. God revealed himself along the way in a pillar of cloud. When the cloud moved forward, Moses would say these words, "Arise, O Lord, let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee before you." These are also the opening words of Psalm 68. So Moses is bringing us back to those days in which God led his people through the wilderness. As he did so, verse 8 says, the earth quaked. The king of the armies, they flee. The Bible tells us in Psalm 68. So Psalm 68 is a victory song, particularly celebrating God's victory over those who tried to prevent his people Israel from moving from Egypt into the promised land. God was victorious. He brought them in despite opposition. The New Testament helps believers apply this victory psalm to Jesus' death and resurrection. Paul quotes verse 18, "When he ascended on high, he led a host of captives, and he gave gifts to men," Ephesians 4, verse 8. The Lord, who had descended into this world in his incarnation, a bit like the pillar of cloud in the wilderness, he also ascended far above all the heavens. Verse 10, he poured out his comforting spirit, these what's referred to as the gifts that he gave, the gifts of the Spirit from his Spirit. So Jesus is the warrior who God had promised to defeat Satan and lead his people not to Canaan, but to the heavenly Jerusalem. On the day of judgment, Jesus will soundly and finally defeat the wicked and send those who hate him fleeing before him, as verse 2 says in Psalm 68. The rebellious will then dwell in a parched land, verse 6. So what is the purpose of Psalm 68? Why write this victory song and give it to God's people? Well, two main reasons, I think. First of all, God is generously warning the wicked. He is revealing himself as the victor to those who may not yet believe. God's people in the Old Testament seemed like easy prey, but they were protected by a strong leader, verses 15 through 18. Listen, the chariots of God are twice 10,000, thousands upon thousands, verse 17. David mentions this Mount Bashan in verse 16. That Mount Bashan was a superior mountain to smaller Mount Zion. Mount Bashan was mighty, and like Mount Bashan, evil seems strong. But God says this in verse 16, the mountain that God desired for his abode, Mount Zion, will never fall. That reminds us of Matthew 16, verse 18, where Jesus says that the gates of hell will never prevail against his church. So God is warning the wicked to turn from their rebellious ways, submit to him before they face his fierce opposition. But second, he's also encouraging the poor and needy. He singles out the poor and needy in verses 9 and 10. God balances two typically unpaired traits, power and gentleness. Often the powerful are not gentle. The gentle are not always powerful, but God is both. He is both warrior and father, verses 5 and 6. Someone has said this, the highest glory of God is that he cares for the miserable and surrounds himself with them. So let the righteous rejoice, verses 3 and 4. Let the righteous talk about God's power, verse 34, not only to the praise of God, but to the encouragement of our own souls. Awesome is God from his sanctuary, the God of Israel. He is the one who gives power and strength to his people. Blessed be God, says verse 35. Let's listen to this majestic victory song of Psalm 68. To the choir master, a psalm of David, a song. God shall arise, his enemies shall be scattered, and those who hate him shall flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so you shall drive them away. As wax melts before fire, so the wicked shall perish before God. But the righteous shall be glad. They shall exult before God. They shall be jubilant with joy. Sing to God, sing praises to his name. Lift up a song to him who rides through the deserts. His name is the Lord. Exult before him. Father of the fatherless and protector of widows is God in his holy habitation. God settles the solitary in a home. He leads out the prisoners to prosperity, but the rebellious dwell in a parched land. O God, when you went out before your people, when you marched through the wilderness, Selah, the earth quaked, the heavens poured down rain. Before God, the one of Israel, before God, the God of Israel. Rain in abundance, O God, you shed abroad. You restored your inheritance as it languished. Your flock found a dwelling in it. In your goodness, O God, you provided for the needy. The Lord gives the word. The women who announce the news are a great host. The kings of the armies, they flee. The women at home divide the spoil, though you men lie among the sheepfolds. The wings of a dove covered with silver, its pinions with shimmering gold. When the Almighty scatters kings there, let snow fall on Zalman. O mountain of God, mountain of Bashan, O many-peaked mountain, mountain of Bashan, why do you look with hatred, O many-peaked mountain, at the mount that God desired for his abode? Yes, where the Lord will dwell forever. The chariots of God are twice 10,000, thousands upon thousands. The Lord is among them. Sinai is now in the sanctuary. You ascended on high, leading a host of captives in your train and receiving gifts among men, even the rebellious, that the Lord God may dwell there. Blessed be the Lord who daily bears us up. God is our salvation. Our God is a God of salvation, and to God the Lord belong deliverance from death. But God will strike the heads of his enemies, the hairy crown of him who walks in his guilty ways. The Lord said, I will bring them back from Bashan. I will bring them back from the depths of the sea, that you may strike your feet in their blood, that the tongues of your dogs may have their portion from the foe. Your procession is seen, O God, the procession of my God, my King, into the sanctuary. The singers in front, the musicians last, between them virgins playing tambourines. Bless God in the great congregation. The Lord, O you who are of Israel's fountain. There is Benjamin, the least of them, in the lead, the princes of Judah in their throng, the princes of Zebulun, the princes of Naphtali. Summon your power, O God, the power, O God, by which you have worked for us. Because of your temple at Jerusalem, kings shall bear gifts to you. Rebuke the beasts that dwell among the reeds, the herd of bulls with the calves of the peoples. Trample underfoot those who lust after tribute. Scatter the peoples who delight in war. Nobles shall come from Egypt. Cush shall hasten to stretch out her hands to God. O kingdoms of the earth, sing to God. Sing praises to the Lord, Selah. To him who rides in the heavens, the ancient heavens, behold, he sends out his voice, his mighty voice. Ascribe to the Lord. Ascribe power to God, whose majesty is over Israel, and whose power is in the skies. Awesome is God from his sanctuary, the God of Israel. He is the one who gives power and strength to his people. Blessed be God.